How's it going, everybody? In this video, we're going to be talking about California's Castle Doctrine. But real quick before we jump into this video, if you think that you have a fundamental right to self-defense within the home, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe. I also want to thank one of the main sponsors of the channel, that being Thornton Customs. Thornton Customs does a ton for this channel. They help support what we're doing here. Thornton Customs has California compliant parts and features that you can purchase from them. So like I said, they do a lot to support us here on the channel. And if you'd be interested in taking a look at them, I'll put a link to them down in the details section. So topics surrounding self-defense, castle doctrine, duty to retreat, all these things are really popular right now within our society, and a lot of people have questions about these, and I get tons of questions asked to me about these things because of what's going on with things like riots, looting. We've had other issues with coronavirus. People are concerned about that. People are just concerned about our society at large. And specifically, a lot of my followers here in California are wondering about castle doctrine. What are they allowed to do to defend themselves within their home? One thing I want to mention is, although I am a licensed and practicing attorney in the state of California, this is in no way legal advice. There is no way that I could give you guys legal advice on all the factual nuances that could happen in a case like this, in a castle doctrine case, in a self-defense case. Just take this as a general overview of California's castle doctrine laws and some things that you should think about, consider if you were ever to find yourself in one of these situations, or maybe you should think about before you find yourself in one of these situations. Now, the state of California has very specific laws surrounding your right to self-defense within your home, and this is deemed the castle doctrine. And since your home is considered your castle, you are allowed to protect yourself, defend yourself within your home if someone is trying to intrude in your castle or intrude upon your castle. So where can you find California's castle doctrine language? Well, that can be found in California Penal Code section 198.5. And so let's take a look at this language and what does California say about your right to defend yourself within your home. This penal code states that any person using force intended or likely to cause death or great bodily injury within his or her residence shall be presumed to have held a reasonable fear of imminent peril of death or great bodily injury to self, family, or a member of the household when that force is used against another person, not a member of the family or household, who unlawfully and forcibly enters or has unlawfully and forcibly entered the residence, and the person using the force knew or had reason to believe that an unlawful or forcible entry occurred. As used in this section, great bodily injury means a significant or substantial physical injury. So that is the language, that is the penal code you look to for California's castle doctrine. And what this section is saying is that if someone unlawfully and forcibly enters your place of residence into your castle, you are granted the presumption to be in fear of great bodily injury or death, and therefore you are allowed to defend yourself and potentially use deadly force to defend yourself. And I want to emphasize that this law grants the presumption to you as the individual in your home, and it grants you that presumption that you are in fear of great bodily injury or death, and that would be imminent. This is a presumption that the courts and the law in California automatically grants to you. That is, if someone is breaking into your home or unlawfully intruding into your home, you are presumed to have had that fear of great bodily injury or death. This is a presumption that the prosecutor, who would maybe try to charge you with something like murder or some sort of homicide, they would have to overcome that presumption because, again, it is automatically granted to you if someone is breaking into your home. And the prosecutor must overcome that presumption by showing that potentially you were not in fear of great bodily injury or death, that fear did not exist, and therefore you acting in self-defense within your home and using that castle doctrine exemption was not warranted because you did not have that fear of great bodily injury or death. Now, what that would look like or how the prosecutor would frame that, that's all going to be fact specific, but just understand they have to overcome that presumption that is automatically granted to you. And how do they do that? They have to show in some way that you did not have a fear of great bodily injury or death. Now, since you are granted this presumption, if you use deadly force against someone who was unlawfully breaking into your home, intruding into your home, if you use deadly force and that individual did die, it is considered a justifiable homicide, similar to how a traditional self-defense claim, if that was justified, it becomes a justifiable homicide. Essentially what you are saying is, yes, I did kill this individual, but I was justified in doing so because they were breaking into my home, they were intruding, I was in fear of great bodily injury or death, and therefore I used force that I thought was appropriate, being deadly force. Now, one question that pops up a lot when you're talking about things like castle doctrine, it is, where is this line drawn of where someone is within your home or trying to break in your home, and when are you allowed to use some sort of self-defense or deadly force to protect yourself? And a good example of this is a 1992 case called People v. Brown. And this case deals with kind of this issue of, is someone actually trying to get into your residence? At what point are you allowed to use some sort of deadly force and claim the castle doctrine as a defense? And here's a good summary of what this case dealt with. It says, during an argument, a handyman stepped onto a large front porch with a raised hammer. The homeowner shot him in the leg from inside the house. So again, this individual is on the front porch with a hammer. He is shot by an individual within the home, and he is shot in the leg. And the judge ruled that it was not a castle doctrine case because stepping onto the front porch while real property was not an entry into the residence, and a reasonable person would expect people to come onto the enclosed front porch. And again, that is People v. Brown. It's a 1992 case. So this is all going to be factual about where you are appropriate to use deadly force, when you can claim castle doctrine, but there have been some indications in some case laws that say that unless it is an actual entry into the home, if someone's just standing on your front porch, if they're just standing in your front yard, something like that, you may not be justified in using some sort of deadly force because you can't be in fear of great bodily injury, of death, if someone's not lawfully trying to enter your residence. Someone's standing on your front porch, or maybe someone's standing on your front yard, is not them trying to enter into your residence. Now, another thing that pops up quite a bit when you talk about things like castle doctrine, and because people are familiar with self-defense laws in general, is, do you have a duty to retreat within your home when you're defending yourself within your home, within your castle? Do you have to try to retreat? And the answer to that is no. There is no duty to retreat within your home. Again, that presumption is granted to you that you are in fear of great bodily injury or death. And so since that is automatically presumed onto you, California also does not require you to have to try to retreat within your home. Also beyond that, if you're interested, self-defense generally in California as well, you do not have a duty to retreat. There are specific California criminal jury instructions that indicate this, that you do not have a duty to retreat within California, that the court cannot consider or the jury cannot consider your ability to retreat. And so generally in California, that is not something that is placed on you. There are other states that do require you to retreat and have a duty to retreat. But here in California, based on the criminal jury instructions and based on case law, you do not have a duty to retreat. And that extends as well within your home. If you are defending yourself within your home, you do not have a duty to retreat. So hopefully that helps answer a lot of you guys' questions about castle doctrine, when you're allowed to use deadly force to protect yourself or family members within your home. Remember, it's probably going to be when someone is unlawfully or forcibly actually trying to break into your residence. There are issues about when someone is actually trying to enter into your residence. We mentioned a case that dealt with someone just being on your porch versus someone trying to actually get into an actual entry of your home. So you're going to want to keep that in mind as well. One thing I want to mention with all this, when you're thinking about things like self-defense, when you're allowed to defend yourself, you're going to be wanting to also look at the legal ramifications that happen after the fact. If you use maybe like your CCW or you defend yourself within your home, you're going to want to think about the legal ramifications. And so that's why I always recommend you guys have some sort of carry protection or some sort of self-defense protection like USCCA. That's the one I always recommend to people. I'll put a link to them down in the details section. If you're interested, take a look at USCCA. There's also a lot of other companies out there on the market as well. You're just gonna wanna take a look at them, look at their plans, decide what works best for you, and also make sure whatever company you go with actually protects individuals within specific state that you're in, because there are some companies that don't apply their protections to specific states. So you're gonna wanna look at that as well. So if you guys have any questions, go ahead and comment down below and I'll try to answer the best of my ability. Also, if you like this video and like support the channel, one of the best ways to do that is to like, comment, subscribe, and make sure to hit that notification bell because it helps the channel analytics, helps us spread the word about the Second Amendment, also spread the word about things like this in the state of California. So as always, thanks you guys for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and never forget, this nation was built by armed scholars. This nation will be maintained by armed scholars.